A win for Kansans fighting to get back on the road in the face of what some call an epidemic of suspended driver's licenses. Plus, delivering another Kansans absentee ballots. Is it helping a friend or committing a crime? And on again, off again. Where does that mask go now? As state lawmakers and county leaders toss the political hot potato around. That's what we're talking about right now on Kansas Week. Welcome to Kansas Week. I'm your host, Pilar Pedraza. We begin with a story that has dominated all week long, with new laws in place changing who can do what in a statewide medical emergency. Many wondering, where do we go from here? Under that new law, the governor's renewed mask mandate has already been overturned by Republican leaders in Topeka. As Cakesbury Smith shows us, that leaves counties facing possible legal problems.
People in Wichita are concerned about the changes made to Senate Bill 40 regarding citizens and legal opportunities.
I just think being business owners and actually working here in the community, we have got to find a way how to work together.
We have made a lot of progress in this county.
Dr. Gerald Mintz is the Sedgwick County Health Officer. He thinks dropping county orders like the mask mandate is now more of a judicial issue rather than a medical issue.
So it just said to me that now the decisions are being made primarily due to fear or cost of litigation than really what's on the best health policy for our community.
There are no public health orders at this time in the county, so no one can file any of these lawsuits. But if this changes, anyone who is upset about masking up or social distancing can sue. Mintz is worried the new guidelines will make it hard for the county to defend itself.
I think it potentially could make them hesitant to put any local health officer order into effect, whether it's COVID or some other condition.
People we talked to in Wichita are worried about the financial hardship this could have on the county.
It worries me because being a taxpayer, at the end of the day, if there's lawsuits, all of us are going to be paying for that. So yes, I am concerned that people will have that right to go to court on something that we should all find a way to work together on.
And here to help break this all down, we have State Representative Emil Berquist, a Park City Republican, who's joining us by Zoom. And on the desk with me this week, State Representative Elizabeth Bishop, a Wichita Democrat. Thank you both so much for being here. And Elizabeth, I am going to start with you today. You were quoted in the paper talking about SB 40 and basically saying, you know what, I really wasn't a fan of it, but I was warned that if we didn't approve this, worse was coming. Could you kind of explain that comment?
It was worse. It was a lot worse. And as it went through the work in the Judiciary Committee, the word that I got was, well, we got rid of this and we got rid of that, and it's not going to be as bad. There was some kind of weird fund that the Attorney General was going to be in charge. It was really worse. Then when we considered it, I believe the issue of the local folks worrying about getting sued was not considered adequately. I mean, I'll just confess, I don't think I believe the overall tenor was, oh, well, we're returning the control to the local people. And local people took a look at it and ran screaming out of the room. So it's a problem. I did not think it was a good bill to start with, but in addition to everything else, we had a deadline, and where a lot of bad things would happen if we didn't get our act together quickly. And if we'd gone back and forth a lot, we would have been right down to the deadline, which was March 31st.
And I know, talking about the local control issues, local leaders being concerned, if not worse, about it. I've heard from a lot across the state who are very upset, saying they've had this control taken away from them. And Emil, I know that I've heard from a lot. I'm wondering if you've been hearing response from local county, city leaders as well.
Most of what I've heard from, and I have heard from a few leaders, but most of what I've heard is from the people at large that are relieved to be able to make their own choices in relation to the mask order that was also related, but to be able to go on with their lives and to know that they have some say in the matter. what they choose for their families. And I don't think the main emphasis is being able to sue. It's more a matter of being able to choose. And people want to take control of their work life, their home life, their church life, their business life back. And this gives them some sort of assurance that they can do that. I don't think it really has as much to do with the lawsuit business as it does with the freedom.
And this just Thursday, the LCC, the Legislative Coordinating Council, overturned the governor's renewed mask mandate as part of all of this. Is that a done deal, or are there further actions that could be taken later on? A lot of people just wondering, are we done with mask mandates or not?
Well, that is a done deal as far as the way we've set up the Legislative Coordinating Council in their working relationship with the governor. That was a directive from the legislative bodies of both the Senate and the House. And so they acted in accordance with the majority of both bodies. Whether it's a done deal, whether another emergency comes up and another situation comes up where there's a new need, that's a whole different matter. But when it comes to this particular situation that is continuously declined in severity, and the mask or the situations of how it's been cared for, however it's been cared for, there has been a increasing or a decreasing amount of people affected directly. We don't minimize at all the health issues and the deaths or even the risks, but we believe that people should have the ability to make a decision for their families and their communities across the state. And no, I have not heard any direct from the officials, local officials, but I'd be glad to hear from them. Thank you.
All right. And as we move forward, I know a lot of businesses, Elizabeth, have relied on that government mandate for requiring masks inside their business, their place of operation. Where does that leave them at this point then? They can no longer rely on that. They have to do it on their own. Does that leave them facing some liability?
I think it makes a problem for many businesses that do want, as a business fact, that because it makes their place of business more attractive to go into if the staff and the people inside are masked. I can tell you that I look at a place, and if it gets really crowded, and if there's a lot of not wearing masks, especially if it's an eating establishment, because of course it's impossible to wear a mask and to eat, and if it becomes really crowded, we leave. There's been an instance where someone was upset because he was asked to wear a mask in a business and he broke a window. That was in the paper before, not long ago. I think the mandate would have, I don't foresee, I would not think that if we had a mandate, there was going to be a lot of people getting hauled off to jail because they weren't wearing a mask. That was not going to happen. But it would have been a good backstop for businesses that want to be sure and keep their business model of being healthy.
All right. Well, that wasn't the only thing, of course, they were talking about in Topeka this week. Another issue lawmakers have been struggling with all session: what to do to fix the state's broken unemployment system. In the House this last week, a push to hold the state accountable for delays in payments. All of this while some folks are taking their complaints straight to the Department of Labor's front door, as Rebecca Chung of the KSN Capitol Bureau shows us.
Unemployment is a hot topic here at the State House, with new moves being made to get Kansans the help they need. But some people aren't convinced after trying to call the department several times a day with no luck. And they want to know, where is the help?
This is my phone record from January 1 till current.
That's Christina Besvater's call log. She's been calling the unemployment office almost every day.
I call about 1,000 times plus a week.
taking up hours of her time.
This is me. I've tried any number I can find.
People protesting outside the department, some in the same boat, and now it's taking its toll.
We're in the middle of a pandemic and a crisis. We're the ones being left behind.
The unemployment office is bringing on 500 new call center workers to take care of the high volume of callers, but that could take time. These workers will be fully in place by late April or early May, but some people say they need help now.
Stop placing blame and just do it.
There's got to be a solution to the problem.
The department's in the process of bringing on the 500 call center workers. They say they're already starting to see a drop in calls coming in by about twofold, and they're hoping to see some more changes once all the workers are brought on. At the Capitol, I'm Rebecca Chan.
In the meantime, those emails continue to come in to newsrooms and lawmakers. I know I'm getting them nonstop. Emil, I'm sure you're hearing from constituents as well on a regular basis.
You know, since the last quarter of last year, we've been getting an increasing amount of emails, and there are people, most of the people that are writing to me now have not been paid any of their unemployment since late December. And it's almost the same message right on through. And we want to bring hope. And I do want to say we welcome Amber Schultz, the new director at KDOL. And we hope the very best for her and her new leadership, her permanent leadership. We are dealing with and trying to work through the extra helpline that we've been given, and we see the despair in people's lives, and they're losing their finances, they're losing their homes, and some of them are just living on a track phone trying to make it through and fall through to the Department of Labor. So we'll continue to try to help them, but we don't want to be their only answer. We'd like it to where we get the system back to where the Department of Labor can actually do the job. And so, yes.
And certainly, I know you have heard from a number of folks as well. We've talked about that before. We were talking before the show started. They have expanded hours. There is now a new permanent Secretary of Labor in place. We've been dealing with acting secretaries for the last several months. How much does all of that affect this ongoing equation?
I think it is helping, but slowly and much too slowly. I agree with Emil. We need to get there soon. I got a phone call from one of my cases, and the thing is, I call it casework, and they don't ever end. You get one issue settled for someone who's attempting to apply, and they get told the check will be in the mail by next Wednesday, and then it's not. And so they kind of have to start all over again trying to contact KDOL. The lack of contact, I think, is absolute key, and the new hires are going to help. It takes a while to train. These are different, complicated programs. So the training takes a while. My understanding is more than 100 new hires will be in place by Tuesday, 7th, Wednesday. And another more than 100 are in training and will be in place by the 20th. And the extended hours are again being extended. On Saturdays from 8 to 5 p.m., Sundays between 1 and 5 p.m., starting next Monday, March 8th. April 8th. That's okay, I'm mixed up on the calendar. Yeah. But anyway, weekday hours will be extended from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. They had been cutting it off at 8 p.m. So some of those extended hours might help. I suggest trying to call on over the weekend. They say that Fridays are a pretty good day to call, but Mondays are the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing. Folks have really gotten together, especially in Facebook groups, etc., just sharing those little tips with each other. I've found out this worked, that works better, or stuff like that. Such a complicated system. And
they turn to the legislature, and I think Emil can back me up on this, and we often don't get any better result than the average citizen does. It is the system, and I know that they're trying their best. When they are getting, for instance, the week of March 22nd, they received an average of 177 calls per day. Yeah. So it's a big spigot, and we've got to become more responsive. Yeah. It just must happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from so many people myself, and we do the same thing. We pass them on to contacts we have within the department, and we don't have any better luck than anybody else trying to get that information through. It's very frustrating.
Well, when I return a call, I get such gratitude just from the fact that I picked up the phone and called them back.
Yeah.
So I know the department wants to get there, but it's got to get done.
Yeah. All right. Well, other things to talk about today. A big win this week for Kansans trying to change the state's suspended driver's license rules. Reformers didn't get everything they wanted, but say the changes coming will still make a big difference for thousands of Kansans.
I'm already getting text messages and calls from people saying, you know, well, when can I do this?
Wichita Senator Aletha Fascudo says Kansans in her district are eager to take advantage of new provisions the Senate passed this week to make it easier for hundreds of thousands of Kansans with suspended licenses to pay off their fines and fees and get back on the road legally.
This is something that I can remember working on as my first year in transportation. I think it's a bill that is needed.
One bill approved unanimously ends the additional 90-day waiting period after those fines and fees are paid off before you can get your license back. That bill moves on to the House now. Another will end the application fee for restricted licenses so you can drive to work, the grocery store, take your kids to school while paying off those fines and fees. It also makes the restricted license available to more people, like some previously cited for driving on a suspended license. That bill now on its way to the governor's desk.
We want able-bodied people to go to work. And in Wichita, we know that our transit system does not run into the late hours, whereas individuals might work a second or third shift job.
The argument being most people have to drive in order to work, and they can't pay off their fines and fees and drive legally if they can't drive at all. Fascudo says while she's worked on this issue for years, one thing has really made a difference in getting other lawmakers' support.
Media coverage, especially from Cake News, Cake on Your Side, and yourself, getting that information out throughout the state of Kansas.
And one quick note on both of those measures, the changes do not apply to licenses suspended because of DUIs. And Emil, I'm going to start with you on this. You know, the second one, eliminating that 90-day wait period before you can get your license back, headed to the House now. What's your take of the temperature on the House floor? Do you think it has a chance?
I think it does. Any reasonable measure we can get to where people have whatever corrective action is needed to change the way they've done in the past or to change their situation. A lot of times finances is not the easiest way to solve a problem where if somebody's unemployed and really wants to get back to work, if they have to spend their money that the little that they do have to pay the fine now, if there's a way that can be carefully measured to get it paid, get responsibilities paid, and get that person back to driving, we certainly want that to be possible.
And I know another element that didn't make it through yet that they were originally trying for this year was eliminating the multiple fees for getting your license back. For example, many people who have suspended licenses, it's suspended on multiple different citations, and they have to pay a $100 fee for every citation. So somebody could, you know, while it's $100 to reinstate your license, with all those citations, it could be $500–600 for some people, and they say that's prohibitive. They may get their fines and fees paid off, but they still can't afford to get their license back, something that the courts pushed against because that money goes to paying their employees. And that's why some people refer to this as a poverty tax.
I think that we need to explore also having some forgiveness times where people can come in, pay a small amount, and have a lot of it taken care of. But I'm in favor of the bill that's coming up. There was another one that we passed not too long ago that I think helped the situation at least a little bit. I mean, we're moving there gradually, but we've been doing a lot of things that will spur the economy, that will help with employment issues, and we're looking at things with a lot more of a lax point of view than we have in the past because it's so important that we get people back to work. Yeah. We don't want people driving without a license.
Yeah, and when we have a bunch of people on the roads without a license. That costs all of us money when it comes to our insurance rates. So
Right.
it's good for everybody.
Exactly.
At least that's what the proponents tell me. All right. You're both on the election committee on the House. So, of course, we have to discuss election law changes under debate, starting with action this last week in the Kansas Senate. The Kansas Senate Wednesday voted 28-12 to make it a felony for someone to deliver more than 5 absentee ballots for other voters to election officials. The bill would also limit candidates to delivering ballots only for immediate family members. Supporters say this would protect against something called ballot harvesting, where political operatives collect absentee ballots from voters' homes and drop them off at a polling place or election office. Nationwide, Republicans believe this practice has been abused, but the Associated Press reports state lawmakers in Topeka presented no evidence of that in support of this bill. Opponents call the measure voter suppression, saying it would make it less likely that disabled voters or voters living in nursing homes would be able to get their ballots delivered. The measure now moves on to the Kansas House, where a vote could come as soon as next week. And Elizabeth, this is a bill that has been very controversial. It's been put in with a whole bunch of others that have been introduced across the country as voter suppression. Do you really see an issue of folks essentially kind of stuffing ballots by bringing in all of these absentee ballots? Is that really a problem in Kansas?
Absolutely not. There is no evidence of it whatsoever. What we hear when we have discussion, especially on the floor in the Senate, is, well, somebody told me, I heard, they say. There is no evidence, and frankly, the Secretary of State more or less testified to that at the very first presentation he gave the House Elections Committee in January. It was that was historic in terms of absentee ballot usage, partly a lot because of the pandemic, and it went smoothly. There were no problems. There seemed to be lots of suspicion of voting processes when at the same time the Kansas experience was stellar. It's a wrong-headed solution for a non-problem.
Yeah. Emil, what's your take on all of this?
I believe that when you have an election system that is possible for fraud, that you can refine it like we're talking about right now. Refine it and prevent those situations. The other situation is that no one knows how much fraud goes on. When there's not evidence, as you referenced the Secretary of State, that there's no evidence of it, that doesn't mean that it's not happening. And I think the protection of our elderly and the protection of those that are indigent is just as likely to be an issue when it comes to fraudulently exploiting someone's ballot. And we want everybody's ballot to count. Everybody that wants to vote should be able to vote without any possibility of fraud. And just because we don't see evidence of abuse of elderly in other ways doesn't mean it's not happening. And I believe that this is another one of those situations where we can, in our elections committee, we can refine laws that are not partisan, but simply to make it more possible for people to have a legitimate vote that counts.
All right. And very quickly, yes or no, Emil, do you see this passing in the House?
Yes, I would say it would. I think it'll get plenty of debate. I hope it does. And I think it has a good chance of passing.
All right. Elizabeth, yes or no?
No. When it was considered in the Senate, there was no advance notice. There were no opponents that were able to attend the committee meeting. There was one proponent. It's a real shadowy group called Opportunity Solutions Incorporated or Project. And when it was heard in the House in the committee, there were 13 opponents, including those representing disabled people and the elderly.
All right, and we're going to leave that there because we've got one more thing to talk about today. Another issue that's gotten a lot of headlines this year, the push to legalize medical marijuana, a push that got a big boost when a House committee voted it out to the full House on Monday. KAKE's Morgan Mobley takes a look at why some are so hopeful this is the first step toward finally legalizing medical marijuana in Kansas.
Kylie Klug's son Owen was born with a rare form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. He has upwards of 100 seizures a day and doesn't respond to mainstream pharmaceuticals.
They either made the seizures worse or he's just a zombie all day. And so this was really our last-ditch effort.
Klug says it was hemp oil that led to his medical miracle.
It's like a light would go off. He would be there again. And he would communicate, his eyes would be clear.
With stories like Klug's in mind, Representative Brandon Woodard helped introduce the medical marijuana bill in Kansas. After several amendments, the bill passed through committee Monday morning, now heading to the House floor.
The people back home have said very clearly that they want medical marijuana across the finish line. And so while I would like to see the state go even further, I was happy to work with my colleagues to go ahead and get to a solution today.
High Hopes ICT is a dispensary that opened up 2 years ago with the goal in mind to sell medical marijuana. In fact, they already know they'll put it in this room back here if and when the bill is passed, and they say they'll be ready.
We have high hopes for Wichita. We have high hopes that this is going to happen.
Woodard says this would be a win for our state as a whole.
Kansas is an agricultural state. Giving our farmers the ability to grow this crop that could generate not only profit and income for them, but also revenue for the state of Kansas.
And for patients like Owen, Klug will continue to advocate for this bill until it becomes law.
This could mean life or death for him, honestly.
In Wichita, Morgan Mobley, Cake News on your side.
And I've been following this issue as the debate continues in the State House for a number of years. There definitely seems to be a shift in attitude this year.
I think so. I would conditionally be in favor of it when it comes to the House. And I say conditionally only because I have not had a chance to actually study the bill. And I will also listen to the debate, but I do believe the time has come.
What about you, Emil? Where do you stand on it?
I believe it's worth debating because it's an issue that's been brought up by committee. I believe that the fact that THC has been shown in studies to help in certain medical cases, I think is important to discuss. And I think it's also important to discuss the control of that substance and other cannabinoids that are in marijuana, and that it shouldn't simply be a matter of finding a next step towards pure legalization. I think that the medical marijuana should be debated purely on its own merits and not as to the expansion. But people will bring their own debates to the floor, and that's fine. That's why we have a deliberative body. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Emil, Elizabeth. I've really appreciated our discussion. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion as well. I'd also like to thank our news partners at KSN News, Cake News, and the Wichita Eagle for sharing their materials with us. We'd love to hear what you think. Just email us at kansasweek@kpts.org. For now, stay safe and have a great week.